Hello, welcome to Dear Work Wives. I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Emily.
Oh, and we're here to help you create work cultures and workplaces that don't suck.
Yeah, I have my merch on today.
You do? Oh,
Yeah, because it's our 50th episode.
that's so nice.
I know. I'm really thoughtful, but only about myself because I didn't tell you.
I was like, you didn't tell me. Wear my shirt.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know where that shirt is. I think it's at the bottom of my drawer, actually.
Yeah, you'll find it because it's bright pink. So
Yeah, if I looked for it, I would have found it, but
yeah,
I didn't know to look for it, so.
I don't know, because I'm selfish.
Yeah.
I only want to make myself look good. So too much admin to tell you too.
Fine.
Yeah.
Maybe on 100 we can plan better.
Right. We could wear hats or crowns.
Yeah.
Tiaras.
I would love that.
Me too.
So we have another themed episode. I really enjoyed our hiring theme last week. And so I thought I'm going to theme it again.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, I come up with I
find the stories.
I find the story. I was like, I don't create the stories. I find the stories and decide what topics we're going to be talking about on the episode. So it's in my hands to come up with the theme if I'm going to theme them. And I liked the theme, so I did it again.
I think it's a smart decision. I mean, I don't think it's necessary every time, but I do enjoy this themed. But I need your opinion on something before we get into the stories and the theme.
Okay, I'm ready.
So after, I don't know, my brother, my adorable, much older, it's 4 years older, but much older brother than me.
Much older.
I just think it's funny that because I still think of I'm a child, right? And he's my older brother. And so when he messages me any questions for advice, I'm like, wait, you're the adult in the situation, not me. Why are you asking me questions about your life? But anyway, he asked
me going to lunch with my brother today, and I feel like he's going to ask me advice or something. Cause he was the one who wanted the lunch. He's leaving his company. He sold his part of his company. So he has a big career change happening. And I'm like, maybe he wants to ask me for advice, but I'm the little sister. And so I feel like he never wants my advice.
Right.
So I'm curious.
Right. I was like, so he's like, can we chat quick? And I was like, sure. And usually it's just about next time he's coming home or the kids or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But he asked me, so he's in the middle of contract negotiations for his job. And his direct supervisor is taking 4 weeks, a 4 weeks off for leave, right in the middle of his contract negotiations. And so he was like, do I wait these 4 weeks or do I escalate it to my supervisor's boss? What would you suggest? I already gave him my opinion and I think he's already done it. But I just thought it was a good question because obviously he listened to us and then he was like, oh, let me ask my sister because she knows. I was like, I don't know anything, but I do. Just not from my big brother.
That's the sweetest thing. Number one, if he listens to this,
he does. Yeah, he does.
I love him listening. Yeah. That is so sweet. My brother, definitely does not listen to this. I mean, maybe he does, and I don't know, but I would assume he doesn't. So I think that's number one, the sweetest thing. And in line with that, random side note, my Mary, my stepmom, she was like, oh, did Tyler like that episode about blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, Tyler does not listen to these episodes. And she's like, really? Why not? She was shocked that he does not listen to these episodes. I'm like, he does not want to hear me talk more than he already has to hear me talk.
He's like, no, I'm good. In my limited free time, I'm not listening to my wife and her friend chit chat. I'm watching NASA's space stations or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's funny. But okay, it's so cute that he listens to this, and so cute that from listening to this, he thinks we're qualified to give advice. So
we are.
Thank you.
But we need to remember that since we have been doing it for 50 episodes. So.
And much longer than 50 episodes with our clients and stuff like that. But
years.
Okay, so I want more. I think I need more clarity before I give my opinion. So let me just mirror it back to make sure I understand.
Yeah.
So his supervisor is going on like a 4-week sabbatical. During
Mm-hmm.
that time, he's negotiating his contract. So there must be an end date to the contract negotiation of like when the decision needs to be made. And that falls in line with when his supervisor is going to be gone. Is that, do I
Yeah, well,
understand that
he's
correctly?
like his contract will is coming up, and he's like they are renewing, but they're negotiating the fine print of it all, you
Print.
know? So,
Yeah. And so the question is, do I go to my supervisor's supervisor and just
yes.
negotiate directly with him, or
Right.
do I wait until the other guy gets back? Is that the other
Yes.
option?
Yeah.
I would be curious what his relationship is like between these two different people. Like if the relationship with his direct supervisor is much better and he thinks that that guy or that woman has his back and is going to like go to bat for him, then I'd be more inclined to wait for that person to support me or try to get it done before they leave.
Mm-hmm.
um, if the relationship is kind of similar between the two, then I would say it doesn't really matter. Just go to whoever and just know your points. Like, as long as your points are strong and factual, like, doesn't really matter who you should go to.
Yeah.
If the relationship is six of one, half dozen of another, like if they're both kind of the same. But I think if you have a stronger rapport with one of them, I would either escalate to do it sooner or wait until they get back, just because they're going to have your back and try to fight for you versus against you in that negotiation. So that would be my 2 cents.
Okay. Perfect. I
Knowing
basically
knowing what I
the
limitedly know
limited.
about his
Yeah.
relationship with both of those people, you know?
Yeah. I took it like also from the clockwork perspective. If someone's taking an extended time like that, like their big tasks need to be delegated to someone else, you know? Like not
Yep.
everything can
Yep.
stop just because you are taking
Yeah.
time for yourself. So it's unrealistic of you know the whole organization to think that everything has to be put on pause. Like if you're in the middle of contract negotiations, 4 weeks is a long term time to sit in the unknown of like
Oh yeah.
what am I gonna get? You know, if they're negotiating salary or
Yeah.
hours or location, all that stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I told him to escalate
Yeah, I
it.
agree with that.
But
Yeah, I would like get it done, right?
yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to wait 4 weeks until they get back. Like what's
Yeah.
especially if he thinks this person can really help him in that contract negotiation, then like yeah, get it done. If not, if you're like whatever, then I agree the other supervisor should be able to handle it, right?
Yeah.
Like if like this person's going to be gone for 4 weeks, we should not have to wait for them to return
Yeah.
cuz I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, you know?
No, I would not. I can't even handle the like, hey, can we talk about something tomorrow? I'm like, can we talk right now? So 4 weeks would never fly for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my bonus story. Bonus
Well, you'll have to
submission.
keep us posted on what he ends up doing and if he took your advice or not.
Okay. I
Did he
will.
say he was going to?
Yeah, I think so. He said he was
Okay.
gonna, you know,
Try to escalate it.
he's a hustler in the good way. Like he always has such a full plate and like has all of it. He just works very, very hard. So I think he's like of the mindset of like, well, then I have to get this done because there's work to be done, you know? He works
Aw.
in like community supports as well. So he's got things he wants to get done. So
Yeah.
it's so funny because my sister-in-law also works there adjacent. And she said on the weekend that she had to like reply something to her boss. And it was an email to my brother. It was the first time they work in a big organization. So like it was the first time they directly crossed paths though. I was like, that's such a small
This
world.
is like your husband's sister
And my brother. Yeah.
and your brother interacting in a work setting. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even live near each other, right?
No, my brother lives in Vancouver and my sister-in-law lives in Toronto.
Yeah.
So
So they must work at like a national capacity.
they do, yes. Yeah.
Wow. Big timers.
Mm-hmm. Doing good work. They're both doing good work.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to talk about our theme?
Yes.
Okay, unveiling of the theme. Dun, 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 dun. That's my drum roll.
Good job. Nailed it.
That's so bad.
Oh, we're so cool.
I know. Okay, the theme is PTO.
Oh, my favorite. I love it.
For
These
those
are
of you who
always
are unfamiliar with the
dramatic.
acronym, because acronyms, don't you
There's so
love
many.
when first of all, there's so many. And in like our work, like at Run Like Clockwork, there's a lot of people from many different industries. And for
So
some
many.
reason, some people just assume that we know every acronym
Yeah.
that belongs to them or their industry or even the small business world. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know a lot of acronyms, you guys. So people are just always like,
Yeah.
no, the FBYT. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, should I know? But they act like you should know what that is. And then that makes you feel dumb. Like,
Right.
oh gosh, if I ask, are they going to not trust my, coaching or what I have to say? Because I don't know this
Right.
stupid acronym.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, speak English.
Explain that to me like I'm 5.
Right.
Like,
What does that
what
even
does
mean?
that mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it relevant? So PTO, for those of you, I will not make the assumption that you know what that means, is paid time off.
Yes.
Because if you Google PTO, you could also find yourself in a land of, which in Florida we used to call it the PTA, but it's PTO is some parent group.
Teacher something?
Association, I think, is maybe
That's
what it
PTA.
PTA. I know, that's what we used to call it. But if you Google like PTO, they'll come up with like Reddit. Ask me how I know, because I did it. And it was like Reddit threads, and a lot of them were like parents talking about the PTO at their school. And I'm like, I don't know
Parent teacher organization, maybe?
Organization. Maybe.
I don't know.
But that's not
why does everyone have to be so creative? Like, it's the PTA.
Everybody's so creative.
So creative. Actually, we call it the Home and School Association, which, like, it's a PTA.
Home and School Association? Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, PTO, not to be confused with the PTA or the parent teacher organization. This is paid time off. A controversial topic. Some would say. Hot button topic. So I want to talk a little bit about our opinions and thoughts first, and then we're going to dive into a couple scenarios, stories, situations, grievances, vent sessions, whatever you want to call them. I don't know if these people need advice,
but they're getting it.
They're getting it anyways, because how could we not, So 2 big things that came up for me. I'm curious if you have others that are related to this conversation. But the 2 things that I wanted to discuss first are the topic of unlimited PTO and the topic of managers declining PTO.
I saw this on your Facebook post, and I was like, I wonder if we're going to talk about this.
That's why I did it.
Yeah.
So we could talk about it. Okay. So, and I found an article about like unlimited PTO because I had heard this over the years through like, I forget if it was I think it was my brother when he was running his company. Originally, they had done like unlimited PTO. And then over the years, they found that like people weren't
take less.
Taking PTO. Yeah, because it was unlimited. And so I looked at like some articles and found that that's actually true. There is data that shows that when you have unlimited PTO, people actually take less days off, right? They take less time off. And one side that I didn't think of before I started reading some of these articles is what a cost benefit unlimited PTO is to an organization, and why a lot of organizations are transitioning towards unlimited PTO. Was interesting, but also that it's like from a job search perspective, like 40% of people use that in their search when they're looking for a new job
as a filter.
That's as like something that's very appealing to them. Like unlimited PTO is something that people want as a benefit. But, and this is where I get a little like, well, can it be a benefit to both? Like, just because the company is creating a cost savings, that doesn't take away anything from the individual, even though the company is doing it. Maybe there's some like culturally we want to be seen as very flexible. We want to be appealing to recruit people, but also like we're not we're not advertising this, but it saves us a ton of money to do unlimited PTO, because a lot of times when you have like 3 weeks or 4 weeks PTO, if you don't take it, then you get paid out that money at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And so what companies essentially did when they started transitioning to unlimited PTO is they basically wiped a ton of liability and debt from their organization by not having to pay out that past PTO, like the past PTO that people hadn't used.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay it anymore because now we're unlimited PTO. So you just get that, right?
Yeah.
So now they don't have to pay out those things, which makes sense from an organizational standpoint. Like, well, we're not paying anything because it's unlimited, you know? Which isn't like, it's not necessarily a negative for people unless they are the type of person that, you know, every year they try to like accrue their PTO so that they can make a little bit more money, which now you're not getting that. So I get that complaint, but
I feel like it's not really a complaint. I don't think it's a valid complaint because more money was not the promise. Time off was the promise, and it's not the company's fault you're not taking it.
Right. Like that is,
unless it is because they won't approve it. So I think this is where the like two questions come into play.
Yeah, like are they declining your PTO? And then now we have you know, unlimited paid time off, but I can't take the time off that I want. Like that's really frustrating. So I'm just curious on your thoughts on the unlimited PTO. I know at Run Like Clockwork, like we've kind of bounced around between different PTO options over the years, just kind of testing different things. Originally, we were unlimited PTO. Now we're more of like a minimum PTO because, people don't use it. I don't feel now. I feel like now we've sort of trained people more to use it. Besides myself, I feel like I'm probably the worst one. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Sorry. I am working on it though. This year I am working on taking more like 1 week vacations.
Okay. Believe that when I see it.
I'm going to Disney with you in a few weeks.
Oh, true. Yeah. Which you still haven't put in the team calendar, by the way. That's okay. You blocked it out and like it was fine.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget that like what I'm most concerned is like don't book a call.
Don't book in with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I blocked it on my end, but didn't really care that. And I got my calls covered.
So you're good. You're the owner of the company, so you're good.
I'm out. I'm
not here. So I'll be with Mickey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miska Muska, Mickey Mouse. Okay, so what are your thoughts just as someone who has been in an unlimited PTO situation, but I'm sure in the past you've also been in a limited PTO.
Yeah, of course. You know, where
your husband's in a
limited PTO, and he just got to 5 years, so he got to 3 weeks of PTO. For 5 years, he was at 2 weeks of PTO, which is inhumane. Like 2 weeks of PTO was incredibly challenging for our family to like manage. I mean, oh my gosh, this is and it's very much a first world problem, but like taking time off, and also because his job has no flexibility, managing things like appointments, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes people will use their PTO to like, if they need surgery or if they need to help like their parent, like, you know, we've had some deaths in the family, like those kinds of things. And like PTO is also for that. So when you only have 2 weeks of it and, you know, our family is able to take a vacation a year, there was just like no time, you know, it was like, oh, this sucks.
Quickly.
It just disappeared. You know what I mean? It's literally 10 days. Now he's at 3 weeks and that feels doable. 4 would be better, but 3 at least is like, okay, like there's enough time to do things in the year, plus stat days and that. I think when we switched to unlimited, I think for a year I took like 1 week off. And then because also like we weren't doing, I think it was like during COVID, we weren't doing anything, you know what I mean? And then when we went to the minimum, our minimum is 3 weeks. Everyone has to take 3 weeks off. And last year I took 3 weeks off. And there was some people on our team who took double that off. And so as the person who both gets to enjoy the unlimited time off, but also has to be aware and manage the resources of the team in an unlimited, I do have like some conflicting thoughts around how much is too much.
Yeah.
Like, what does unlimited mean? What's the cap?
On the team, the other people on the team have to potentially like pick up that slack, especially in a small business. Larger
and I'm not saying, if anyone's listening from our team, I'm not saying anyone at our team like took advantage of our PTO. I'm by no means saying that. But
no, just discussion.
Just seeing the scale and how much people take was just like, oh, how like is this? It's equitable because everyone has access to it, but it becomes challenging to manage in a small team when you need to cover each other.
Yep.
You know? So how much is too much? How do we prioritize who gets what? We operate on a first come, first serve basis. The first person who puts the time in the calendar gets it. And then if the next person, like, you know, if there's certain people who you can't be off at the same time as, then you don't get it, unfortunately. Or you have to really pull in like the third string to help in that role. And maybe that's not possible because the third string has already also taken that time off, you know? So it's very like Lord of the Flies sometimes, I find. But we also are incredibly blessed with like, we get the first week of July off. We get the 2 weeks of Christmas off. We get American Thanksgiving off. So like last year, one of the weeks I took was American Thanksgiving. The whole company was closed anyway. So you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's like you don't really need a ton of additional time off when you're already, and for your, you know, like obviously not all of those times align with like when you want to take a vacation or something, or when your husband can, you know, take vacation, or other people maybe have life things going on and you want to take your vacation. So that's like why you still have additional vacation. But yeah, we are pretty generous in terms of like the weeks off. Like I was talking to Tyler who has a new job, and they get like very limited holidays. Like Christmas Day is the only day he gets off, like as a holiday. I think he only has like 6 government or something holidays throughout the whole year. So like we have like 12 or 13 government holidays plus we have everyone plus every single one. Like we're taking it. Like we are, what did the Toast Girls say? Like we're the USPS.
Yeah. If there's a whiff of it being a government holiday, we're closed. Like,
because also like we're not creating oxygen, so I could see how this doesn't work for every business. No, this doesn't work. I get that, but like it does work for our business, and so we make it work. You know,
we're closed Fridays, so anytime there's a holiday Monday, that's a 4-day weekend. So it's just like it's just too easy breezy. I'm like, I don't need more time than this, you know.
I know, kind of like as we talk about it, I'm like, we're gonna get so many applications for our company once this episode goes live. Just
like we close the first week of July because it's an American holiday and a Canadian holiday are usually within there, so we just close. Like
we're like summer break. Everyone needs a break, so we might as well just take it at the same time.
Yeah.
And then our holiday break, like winter break,
2 weeks
is like
school break.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then American Thanksgiving, we take a fall break.
Wednesday, Thursday, you know.
Yep.
It's fine. We're already closed Fridays, so.
Plus, we get every Friday off for the whole year. So that I know is like super generous. Plus, you get like your unlimited / minimum PTO.
Right.
But there is something to be said in terms of a discussion around, like, should it be this, like, Lord of the Flies, whoever gets there first, or should it be, well, they've taken less than you, so they should get their priority first choice. But, like, what if this it's so complicated, because, like, what if this person has already, like, booked a flight or something? Or
that's
like,
the whole argument of, like, don't book anything until it gets approved. But, like, also, then the flip side of that is, like, I'm not requesting it. I'm telling you I'm not here, you know?
So that's what I want to, we could just like transition right into like the declining PTO conversation. It's like, are we requesting for time off? And this goes like, I know we have entrepreneurs that listen to this, and I think that this is just as important of a conversation for you all as you run your small teams, you know, like what decisions do you want to be making, as well as people who are employed by people, you know, because like these are questions that I don't also have the answers to, because I don't think that there's one right or wrong answer, right? I think that there are values that different companies hold, or different policies, different industries, different ways,
different abilities to do this.
Like doesn't work. And so I think it's just an interesting conversation. But like when you're putting in your PTO, like, are you really requesting your time off, or are you telling them this is when I'm leaving?
So I'll take James's company, for example, right? So in January, they all have to submit their first, second, and third choice for weeks off of the year. Okay. And then, I mean, or maybe fourth too, depending on how many weeks of vacation they're at. And then the company slots those based on seniority. So we take a family cottage vacation with James's family every August. We've been doing it for like 8 years. And for him, it's an absolute non-negotiable. If for some reason that week was denied, even though he's now reached a level of seniority where like it wouldn't be, but he would go back and be like, no, like this is
not a question.
But also they might still say like, I'm sorry, but like they do everything they can. But like if they were to say like, I'm sorry, like you're the 7th person to request it, and we don't have enough bodies, then it's like, then what does he do? Like, does he just call in sick? Like, get in trouble? You know? Like, we've never had to encounter it, but I do think there are industries where, like, when you need a certain amount of people to do the commitments to your customers, if you've capped out on enough people booking it off and you still have to account for people calling in sick, then like, sorry. You know, so now his company has a whole calendar. So now he can go look at the whole year and see like, okay, like where could I add a day or two based on which weeks are already full, you know? So now they can be independent enough to look ahead and be like, okay, well, I can't take this week in October off, but I could do the week after. And I think that's like a more equitable way of doing it. Like they basically give everyone their first choice for the year, but that means in January, you have to know what week am I going to want off? Or you don't, and then you just wait and see where all the chips fall, and then you make your plans based on that, you know? But most people have like a week they want off, like whether it's March break or maybe they want Canada Day because they do the thing, you know, like everyone kind of has their thing that they like. So that's, I feel like it's a sad truth of some industries that like, I think that I can see very valid reasons why a request can be denied.
Yeah. So, for example, one of my best friends here, one of my best friends from college. She lives locally to me. She's a PA, so a physician's assistant for children's orthopedics, right? And they have like an on-call schedule as well, but there's only a certain number of PAs at their practice. And so we're trying to plan like a girls trip for one of our friends is getting married. So we're trying to like do a girls trip to celebrate her, because not all of us can go to the wedding. And she's like, I need to know what weekends you all have available, like through November, because I have to put in before the other PAs put in, because if they have those Fridays off, like I can't do it, you know, like I just can't, like I'm going to be the person there if the other 2 PAs or whatever it is are off. And that I understand, right? Like someone has to,
that's the reality of some industries. You need people there.
Someone has to see the patients. Yeah. So.
Whereas like our company could operate if every single one of us could be off and one person could just be there to answer clients, and like we could still be open. You know, the other 8 of us could be off.
We're not growing and getting things done, but we can operate.
Manage. It's not ideal, and we would never want that to happen, but like it's totally possible, you know?
Yeah. Yep. So I asked a question on my social media, like, have you ever been declined PTO by an employer, and what did you do? And so I got some responses. Someone said yes, and I got declined, and then I went to work. Not proud of it, but I'm trying to have a career out here. Like, yeah, I get that, right? Like, you get declined.
And also there's nothing to not be proud of. Like,
yeah. They said no, you showed up and fulfilled your end of the commitment. It's unfortunate, it's annoying, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've only ever declined someone once. Okay, so this is coming from the employer standpoint. I've only ever declined someone once, and it was because I already had the two people who could back them up out of office, and it was impossible to keep the work going. They just moved their trip to the next week, and it was all good. So that's one of those situations where worked out fine, but it was a logistical, like, sorry, these other two people are already out. It's kind of like Lord of the Flies priority, right? And you're gonna have to move it. So make it work. Okay, yes, my daughter was constantly sick, and I had to choose between my job and taking her to the doctor. That's rough.
Obviously, you take her to the doctor.
Yeah, I'm assuming you took her to the doctor.
But some people wouldn't. They'd have to, like, you know what I mean? Because they need the job or
to afford the doctor or whatever. Yeah. Right. I don't know. Okay, most places I've worked offer paid time off. The place I'm at now, when I took over a month-long trip last year, I told them this is my 2-week notice for the month that I would be taking time off, but I'll be back to start work after the trip, or I'll just reapply. They paid me PTO, and I was unpaid for the rest of the time. So they paid out his, like, 2 weeks PTO, and then he was unpaid for the other 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They weren't super happy, but my dreams and wants are worth more than punching a clock. And
like, I get his perspective. Sorry, but I'm shocked.
Like, did you get rehired? And he said, they didn't take me out of the system, so I just started back.
I do see his point, but like 2 weeks notice to take a month off. I'm just I guess sometimes I like straddle the line where I'm like, oh yeah, that's, and then I'm also like, if I want a trip and I was like, Adrienne, I want a trip around the world, but I have to take off in 2 weeks, you'd be like, go. But also it's not a small thing to like dump all your work onto your team with very little notice.
Oh, I don't think he gave them a 2-week notice. I think he was saying, if you don't let me take it, I'll just put in my 2-week notice.
Oh, okay. But I think a lot of people have that. Yeah, I think a lot of people have that too. It's like, especially depending on the job. I think it's too nuanced of a conversation for there to be like, this is the right thing and this is the wrong thing. You know?
Yeah. All right, you want to do some actual stories?
I do.
All right. My manager doesn't want to approve my PTO. I'm a 22 female, only woman on our team. I submitted a time off request for the last week of February. In my one-on-one meeting, my manager told me he would not approve my time off unless I complete a project that I started on February 1st by the 19th of February. I spoke to coworkers, and it seems like he approves their time off requests without any issues. I'm doing well at work, just finished a 3-month project in about 4 weeks and was given positive feedback on it, so my performance has been good. The project he's asking me to work on is not really a big priority, so I don't understand why I'm being expected to do another 3-month-long project in 3 weeks. I explained that the plane tickets for this trip were a gift that are not refundable. What would your advice be?
It doesn't
seems weird that he's like forcing you to complete a project that is not a priority or not also doable in that capacity. You know, like if he's really asking you to do a 3-month project in 3 weeks so that it's done before you leave, that's just like, I'm not going to be gone for 3 months. I'm going to be gone for like a week. I'll finish it when I get back.
Yeah. And you can't wait until the 19th to find out if you did or didn't complete the project and can or cannot get an approved vacation that starts the next day. A week
later, whatever it is. Yeah.
I would just be like, okay, I'll take that. Like, I would just go personally. I don't know. I would be like, I would need more clarification. This doesn't make sense to me.
I'll probably have a meeting with my manager about this project and try to understand what the priority or the rush is. Like, is this really a rush that needs to happen? Does it have something to do with my PTO? And if so, why? Right? Like, because that's not really how PTO works. Given that, like, I understand that PTO does mean I need, like, taking my time off, like, I need to have my things done, but this project doesn't necessarily have a deadline. That's an arbitrary deadline. So I would be asking about that arbitrary deadline and its relationship to your PTO. Is there something that makes him uncomfortable with not getting that done before you leave? And, you know, kind of the get curious to make him answer questions that maybe he doesn't have answers to, which will illuminate the problem in the room. You know, like, sometimes just asking curiosity questions helps to, like, makes them say it out loud and, like, brings light to something that is ridiculous or doesn't make sense or even illegal sometimes, you know, like, oh, like, tell me more about, like, why I need to complete that, like, before my trip, because is this not another 3-month project?
Right. If it's scoped out at 3 months, why are we expecting it to be done in 3 weeks?
Like, are my expectations unclear about the types of projects that I'm working on, etc.? So it's a deeper conversation that can happen when you come from a lens of curiosity as well, versus like defensiveness or like just being like, I'm taking my time off. Like, no, like, go in and explore what his thoughts are so that he can come to his own conclusion that this makes no sense. Right?
Make him say the inside thoughts on the outside.
Yeah, and then make those thoughts turn outside. And if they are thoughts that don't make a lot of sense, then you can also bring it up the line to someone else, to HR if you have it, of like, this is like, my expectations are unclear here of like what I'm meant to complete. It's unrealistic in terms of my capacity to do a 3-month project in 3 weeks, and I don't understand why that's happening, etc. But don't cancel the trip. I would keep the trip until you have this conversation, and probably you'll be fine, because sounds like this is him being just kind of catty, you know? Okay, next one. I'm frustrated. I had invited my friend to accompany to my brother's wedding. She requested for the day after the wedding a couple weeks in advance, and her supervisor didn't give it to her. The supervisor said, if you can find your own coverage, then sure. So I used to work where she's working, and the same thing happened to me nearly every time I requested PTO. If you're requesting PTO, should you, the bigger question here, I don't need to like read all the details of this story because it's too complicated, but like, the bigger question here is like, if you're requesting PTO, should you have to find coverage for your shift, basically? If it's like type of shift work that someone has to be there, are you responsible to find that coverage, or should someone else be responsible to find that coverage?
So my thought process is, if you work in an industry where like you have your schedule, like retail, hospitality, whatever, if you're putting your PTO in with plenty of time, schedule's not out, whatever, then it's up to management to schedule appropriately that you're not going to be there for your regular shifts. If you're last minute requesting something, the schedule's already posted, you're within usually a 2 or 3 week time frame, then and the schedule's posted, I do think it's your responsibility to find coverage, because essentially you're just calling out for your shift.
Right. So I think that's a good like delineation of when it's your responsibility to find coverage for that type of work and when it's not, right? If it's well in advance, the person can just create a schedule without you on it. So like, that becomes their responsibility. That's easy enough. I'm not going to put in my, stuff in January for a June vacation and then also have to find coverage for my June vacation. Like, that's silly. But if I'm requesting for June and it's June 1st, then it's already created and I should just get some coverage and let people know I'm switching or whatever. When it comes to like non-shift work, I think it depends on the responsibility. Like, is the responsibility something that needs to happen while you are gone? And if so, then I do think it's your responsibility to delegate that, confirm with the whoever is going to be doing it, that they have the capacity for it, that they know how to do it, that you're handing over your systems or access or whatever they need. And that's all on your responsibility.
Yeah.
If it's something that can wait till you get back, I think it's fine for that to just remain on your plate. You don't need to hand that over to someone else. It's just for things that like really need to get done on a daily or whatever type of,
totally,
you know, like things that need more immediate attention. So that's my thoughts on that.
Agreed. I mean, at Clockwork, if like we have people who kind of designated cover each other, and you're just letting them, okay, I'm out. Like, can you cover my daily tasks for me? You know, but I make sure any of my project work is either done if the deadline is when I'm off, or do it when I get back.
Yep. Okay. How many days of PTO do you take annually if you have unlimited PTO? So here's the conversation that kind of sparked this conversation to begin with, right? So my work switched to unlimited PTO this year. Honestly, I was a little pissed at how it was announced. When I started here in June, I was told I wasn't eligible to take PTO in the first 60 days. I was told we got 15 days of PTO a year. I tried to get 20, but they denied it. I told my wife I couldn't go on a vacation this year as I needed to carry over 5 days so that I would have 20 days the next year and we can really go and do stuff. So I had 7 days saved up into December with plans on using 2 of them and then carrying 5 over. About 2 weeks before the end of the year, we get told we're switching to unlimited PTO. So I saved these days for nothing. They did say that when we leave the company, any unused days from that year will be paid out, but I'll believe that when I see it. Anyways, I told myself that I have to make sure I take at least 20 days of PTO this year. I've told myself taking at least 1 day off every month, but I know how unlimited PTO is seen, and I've heard how people actually take less PTO because they don't feel like they've earned it. So just asking the conversation of how much is too much and when are you abusing it? And should I take my 20 or should I, you know, like, I think it's
it's really unfortunate that this person got caught in this switchover and essentially did like have to pay the price. I mean, it's good that they're moving towards unlimited, but that does suck. There's no denying. But that's also like a separate issue. You just happen to work there during a policy change. And
my only beef with that is it sounds like they must have known about this policy change well before they announced it in December that they were thinking this. Maybe not though. Maybe it was like on a whim
like, let's do it, and then okay, let's do it starting next year. I mean, I'm not one to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure that they knew, and then they didn't do this so that people couldn't use it. And so
the only thing I'm confused about is it said that like they did say when we leave the company, any unused days from that year. So like he's going to have to wait until he leaves the company to get those 7 days paid out.
Or 5, whatever. Yeah. Should have just paid them out at the end of the year. That would have been the right thing to do. It's like,
that would have been the more appropriate
at the
thing.
end of the year, we're just going to pay out. Yeah.
They don't have the money to do that though, is the thing.
It's the problem. So I do think that like 3 to 4 weeks is like, if you're not taking 3 to 4 weeks, then you're not making use of the unlimited benefit, you know? So 20 days, you know, 4 weeks, Monday to Friday, I think is a great target for people. And that's if your company doesn't have planned closures, you know, like ours does, you know. I'm not going to take 4 additional weeks to the weeks that we're going to get, but I think that's a great target to really like test, because that's 4 weeks is a lot of people never get 4 weeks. You know, here in Canada, like legislated, you have to work somewhere at 10 years, they have to give you 4 weeks. So like people don't stay at companies 10 years very often, you know?
Right.
So I feel like that's like that's a week a quarter, or, you know, 2 weeks and then some long weekends, whatever you want to do. like absolutely take more if you want to, but I do think striving towards that is great policy for people who have unlimited.
Yeah. My thoughts on like unlimited from the employee perspective, and I guess the employer perspective, is that like I don't mind whatever you want to take as long as the work is getting done and your performance, like the outcomes that we're trying to meet are being met, because there's a lot of question of like, well, how much is too much?
How much is
like,
too
well,
much?
if you can still perform your job, like if you can still meet the outcomes for your role, then okay. But then the question of like, well, having other people have to cover that, like, does that count for my performance and my outcomes of my role when someone else had to do it X number of times, So I think there's still a gray area that
we're working through.
Yeah, we're working through. I don't know that there's like a one right answer to this, but yeah, like 20 days sounds like a good goal. And it sounds like enough to feel like you're because that's what you wanted, this person, like that's what they wanted. So like test that out. See how it feels. If you feel like you want more, you can take more the next year, as long as you're still getting your job done and hitting your performance metrics,
I do think unlimited PTO,
you won't be able to hit those performance metrics if you don't come into work enough, Right.
I do think unlimited PTO is a little bit of a trap and plays into a lot of our insecurities and a lot of like of not doing enough. And I think it creates a lot of mind games. I think that it would be more equitable to institute minimums and maximums. I just think people need to be more generous with their time. And I think that's what they're trying to pretend they're doing with unlimited, but they're not actually putting. I think people operate better when they understand the parameters of what they can do. So if you have, like ours, everyone must take 3 weeks. You can take more, but I do think having maximums is like maybe it's 3 to 6 weeks under 5 years, and then at 5 years of the company, like your minimum is 6 weeks, and then it's 6 to 8 or something, like because I think that's a great incentive for a lot of people is getting more paid time off. And not feeling like a dirtbag for taking it, because even people on our team, like they sometimes will be like, oh, is it okay? And I'm like, it's fine as long as you're doing your job. But like that feels even like it's hard to qualify that sometimes, because your job's getting done, but like, am I doing it?
And then is that impacting someone else's performance because they're picking up your slack and then they can't do the things that they needed to be doing to hit their performance goals, which has an impact eventually on their salary or their bonuses or, so I think that again, like it's a messy conversation, but I agree that like minimums, maximums seems like a good place to start if you truly care about your team members taking time off. A lot of these large corporations, part of the financial win for them is that they know with unlimited PTO, people actually take less time off. So not only does it cost them less because they don't have to pay out at the end of the year for any unused vacation, but they also save money because people are just going to work instead of taking that time off. So like they're benefiting multiple times by having the unlimited PTO, but it looks good, especially to the average job seeker who wants more flexibility, like it's showing up in searches. So
yes. And I do think too, like the thing about unlimited is like, you don't, I think we touched on this a few episodes ago. Like it doesn't always have to be in consecutive weeks. And so some people prefer to take a Friday, Monday, but then they do that a lot. And so maybe they are taking two to 3, 4 days a month, but over the course of the year, that adds up in number of days. And it feels like they're always on PTO because every couple weeks they're on PTO, but they're really, you know what I mean? So I just think, I think it's just a larger conversation of like, if your goal is for your employees to rest, you need them to identify what feels most restful for them. Some people, it's I need 4 weeks off in one chunk. Other people, it's I need lots of little breaks, and if we're trying to accommodate rest and recharging, we need them to be honest about what that looks like for them. Okay.
Well, that's a wrap. That's all I got.
That's all we got. If you want to share your thoughts, please do, because this is a hot topic. And
hot topic.
Submit those at dearworkwives.com. If you ever had a PTO request denied, I want to hear about it. Or share on Instagram with us, or wherever you're, or on TikTok. Please. Wherever you want.
Are we on TikTok?
We are.
Okay, great.
Okay. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.